Hey, what's up, everyone? My name is Kush Wave. Welcome to another episode of Handcuff Status. Today, we'll be talking about mental health, what it means, and various forms of injustice in our criminal justice system. We got an exclusive guest today. Radz works with CAMH. He'll be helping us understand various forms of injustice that happens and injustice that's happened to him. He's going to go through his story. Let's get right into it. Brother, before we start getting into the questions, could you give us a little insight on your background?
Yeah, for sure. So I was born in Zimbabwe, but grew up in Canada.
Oh, you were born in Africa?
Yeah, I was born in Africa, Zimbabwe, yeah.
Zimbabwe, okay.
Yeah, my totem is, for my bloodline, is sheep or ram, whatever you want to call it.
Totem.
Yeah, it's like the animal that represents your bloodline. Like,
okay.
It's similar to...
is that like a family crest? Or?
Yeah, like a family crest. It's like what the indigenous people here have.
Okay.
Like Otter Clan, Bear Clan, that type of stuff. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so born there, 4th of July. Everyone always calls it America Day, but it's also a big day back home too. But yeah, moved over to Canada, grew up all over Canada. Now I'm working with CAMH on their board of directors, CAMH Engage, as well as working in the technology sector, doing software.
Nice. So on CAMH, right, the board of director, you said?
Yeah, CAMH Engage, their young professionals board.
Young professional. What is it that you do day to day there? Like,
yeah. So the majority of it is fundraising.
Okay, so fundraising.
So, yeah, like really focused on, different sectors of CAMH as well. And then on top of that, just engaging different, young professionals, whether they be technology sector, retail, whatever it is. Just
so you go out and you interact with these people?
Yeah, within the community.
Oh, within the community. So you're not actually sitting down at the CAMH hospital itself.
Oh, we do. Like, we have the meetings there, but we do a lot of events that are all focused around fundraising as well.
Oh, okay, awesome. So, you guys do the fundraising yourselves? You guys go around and fundraise?
Yeah.
Because I just seen that you guys got like 1.6 billion, I think, from the provincial government to build 2 more buildings or 3 more buildings, I think.
Yeah, they're so I don't know too much about it, but they're building up like a very more modern approach. They're like, actually, I'm not sure even how much I can say, but like basically they're going to have like a campus that's going to be a lot more like engaged with the community. Awesome. So it's not going to just be like sectioned off and, people, going into the building. It's going to be like a, like a park and stuff like that too.
Okay. Yeah, because with mental health, you kind of need that space. It's not always locked up in the room. That's kind of like you're in jail.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's some form of incarceration for sure.
Okay. So, with you doing this, what have you realized, like in the community?
I think the first thing is that everyone's got their own story to tell, right? It doesn't matter if you've been locked up, if you're unhoused, if you're a top executive. Doesn't matter. I've met people from all walks of life, and mental health has impacted them in some way, shape, or form, whether it's them directly or it's someone in their life. And so for the biggest thing for me that kind of make me appreciate it was just how difficult it can be. A bit of a trigger warning, but like one thing for me, I was always just like, with, self-harm and stuff like that. I never really, candidly never sympathized with it till I went through it.
Self-harm.
Yeah, the...
No, I know exactly what it is. You went through self-harm?
Yeah. Growing up, had those situations, especially when I was going through the down period, when we'll probably get into a little bit later on.
You know what? Let's get into the song of the week, because I really want to get into this with you. So let's just let's get the song of the week in.
Yeah.
And we're going to get back into the self-harm, brother.
Yeah.
All right.
Got him. Gentlemen's on the move. 427 to the Gardner Expressway. Free the dogs. Rest in peace to my dogs. Shorty wanna ride? Shorty wanna ride. Yeah, she hold a nigga down. I be whipping pies. Come on, I be making trips. Yeah, you better fuck with this. Yeah, I can match your price. Yeah, double every flip. Shorty wanna ride. Shorty wanna ride. Shorty, she hold a nigga down. I be whipping pies. I be making trips. Yeah, you better fuck with this. I can match your price. Double every flip. My hoopty be stolen. Yeah, my strap be stolen. You know I caught a gold. My trophy be golden. My bitch hair golden. My bitch nails golden. Straps all black, but the bullets all golden. Bad boy, TD, how I roll around my CD. Coach bag filled up. My bitch rolling, she strapped up. Start car, just back up. Racks, I'm racked up. Whip game, no spatula. Dry it off, then I bag it up.
That was Private Spaceship. Shorty Wanna Ride from the 427 to the Goddard Expressway. Team got him.
All right.
Brother, you were talking about self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I'm so interested in that is because self-harm isn't an actual condition. I believe it's a behavior associated with a condition.
Yeah.
So a lot of us, like, believe it or not, you know, we self-harm ourselves without even knowing.
Yeah.
You know? So I really want you to get into that story right there still and see, because there might be other people out there that's going through that, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Number one, I'll just start off with the stats. I don't have them memorized off the top of my head, but, like, you know, we don't need to get into all of that, but, like, you know, everything that's happened leading up to, you know, the crux of the Black Lives Matter movement with, you know, George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and everything.
Also, this was in COVID.
Yeah, it was during COVID. So, like, all of that, and then obviously, you know, the Black Action Defense Committee in Canada, the Black Panthers in the U.S., all of that. Like, there's a whole, it's like a generational trauma that's been going through. So for me,
are you talking about community PTSD and community trauma?
Yeah, that as well as
because of, like, obviously the injustice that's been done against us. Like, we are suffering from things that's happened 100 years ago, whether
exactly,
whether you want to believe it or not.
Genetically, whatever, you know, all of
spiritually,
that, right?
genetically,
spiritually,
yeah,
all of that. So, like, for me, like, I had issues growing up where the mental health issues were there, but it never really became, like, full blown until I reached my 20s.
Is it fair for me to ask, like, why do you think the mental issues were there? Is it something that took place in childhood, or is it genetic?
I'd say a mixture of both. Like, I didn't, you know, growing up as the only black kid. Like, I grew up in like a lot of rural areas, like the only white kid or the only black kid for miles. A lot of white.
Where did you grow up?
Yeah, so, like, rural Manitoba, rural Alberta.
Oh, okay.
Stuff, right?
Wow.
Even not too far up the street from here.
Yeah.
So, you know, there was, you know, like, I was a pretty quiet kid.
Mm-hmm.
You know, definitely got into my fair share of fights, and that was, you know, difficult, especially being, you know, an immigrant kid in the early 90s. It's not as, you know, people aren't as aware as they are now. So, yeah, it was definitely a little bit.
Did they were you one of the kids that they because when I came from Jamaica, right, they threw me in, like, all kinds of classes that I had no business being in, right?
Yep.
So in your personal opinion, right, do you believe that coming from the islands or coming from Africa or even India or anywhere that's not here, where education is serious, and those places take education very serious, and I would say that the education is even better in some of these places.
100%.
Would you say that when they are brought here and they're demoted into these other classes, would you say that affects their mental health?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Even for me, like, I was in a gifted program out west.
Gifted.
Here, yeah.
It
was,
that's what they call it, right? Gifted program.
It was a gifted program. It was, like, basically accelerated. I didn't do well the first couple of years that I was in it, and then they're moving out here. But when I moved out here, I was treated a lot differently. I noticed it was, what's the word, palpable. Like, like, I was, I knew I was a smart guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, took a couple wrong turns here and there, and then now I'm being treated that, you know, in a much different way, right? But yeah, going back to the part about
Self-harm. Yes.
I think where I didn't sympathize with people was like I there was a point, where I was going through it and I was like, okay, I went through it, like why can't other people go through it or like be able to do well? And everyone has their own battle that they're fighting, like
Yes.
everyone's going through their own challenges. So I
Yes.
didn't really sympathize with people until I was down and out, like literally just
Like deep in it, like
deep in it, ready to just call it a day, right? And
was that because of depression?
yeah, I would say it was because of depression.
And that's a mental condition, right?
Yeah, I'm diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I got diagnosed mad late. I got diagnosed like
Mad late.
a week after my 30th birthday, July 11th, 2019.
So is that a condition that you're born with or a condition that you could develop over time?
You're born with it. I think it's like anywhere between 1% to 2% of the population.
So it's genetics.
Yeah, it's genetic. Yeah.
So sorry to cut you, right? Because I really want you to get back to your story, right?
Yeah.
Being diagnosed with a mental condition at such a late age, right? When you're younger and you're in school and you're acting out and they don't view it as if it's a mental issue, you get thrown in anger management, juvenile detention, and these things hinder you on your path to success as an adult because all these things are documented, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that you were set back because you weren't diagnosed properly?
Yeah, 100%. I would say I'm still feeling the ripple effects of it today. Like I was, I had my own troubles, growing up and all that, but I would say like the first big mental health episode I had was when I was 15, like 15 or 16. Like I really like depression, but God bless my family. It just there wasn't a connect there. I think that's a whole other conversation in and of itself. Of like,
I mean, that's a part of mental health as well, right? Because I think I believe two of the main things that a child needs, other than food and you bathing them and changing their diapers. I believe you correct me if I'm wrong. I believe the main two things is attachment and authenticity. So the attachments would be the mother, when the child is crying, the mother picks him up, the child stops crying, right? And the authenticity would be like the child's awareness or like gut feeling, like when you're in the wild, right? You have natural instincts that keep you alive.
Yeah.
That's basically what the authenticity is. So in your childhood, when you're around, you said 15.
Yeah.
When you're around 15, the attachments weren't there?
No, I was definitely like, I grew up with my mom's, there was that. My dad, unfortunately, wasn't in my life.
I mean, two parents is definitely needed, but
yeah, definitely. But I had a community of people supporting me, godparents, like other family members.
Aunts, thank
like,
God. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Like I definitely would not be here today without them. So I think that was like a big component of it. But when I, ventured off on my own and I was in school, I think this would have been like between 20 and 21. I really just went off the deep end, like mentally, like I was in a deep mental health episode. I guess you would say it's not mania.
Mania.
Like, mania. So bipolar disorder used to be called manic depressive disorder. So you have your high highs and you have your low lows. So I was gone for.
You were just low
months. No, I was high. I was
high.
So mania, it believes that you get these certain thoughts in your head where you think you're sent, like you're here for, like you're part of God's mission, or you have these like really intense thoughts, like you have I'm trying to figure out what
part of God's mission. So it's like you're kind of hallucinating in a sense, or
you can say hallucinating.
Oh yes, because you get like far religious.
Yeah, not just religious. It could be anything. Like there's that, but there's a deep sense of like you're here for a bigger purpose. You're special in some sort of way. All of that. So like that kind of gets multiplied. Where for me specifically, like when I was really when I was going through the first big one, which was in my 20s, like I didn't sleep for days, and that created a whole challenge. And
like how long do you
like
think?
we're talking like 3, 4, sometimes 5 days straight, and you're like your body.
How did you not fall down on your face?
Nah, that happened to me in my late 20s, unfortunately. So
Was there any substance abuse involved?
Yeah, I used to be a partier for sure.
Yeah.
A heavy drinker. No drugs though, but or no substances. But I would say like that was a different,
the alcohol substance. I mean,
that
does
runs in my family for sure. So
that does add a lot of effects on the brain. The alcohol, it's like motor dysfunction, right?
Yeah, exactly. And there's a thing called like comorbid, where it's, you know, you've got your mental health diagnosis, but there's typically something going on as well, whether it's, you know, you could be bipolar and maybe schizophrenia, or you've got, you know, some sort of substance abuse. Like typically that type of stuff goes hand in hand. So yeah, basically.
So when you were down, now you're down. You're at the lowest. You're in your 20s.
Yeah.
Is this when you the self-harm came about, or
I wouldn't say,
or
like
you still weren't
serious.
that far yet?
Yeah, I don't think I was that far. Like I was still able to, like, you know, I think this was just after I graduated, so like I was definitely like not there, and my family could sense something. So I actually ended up moving back in with my family, with a few family members, to get like stabilized, and that's when like my career took off and things were going well for.
That's great, man.
At a time, yeah, things were going well for sure. And then the next big one happened. I would say it was a very slow. It was a slow. I was actually describing this to a buddy of mine last night. It was a slippery slope. You were kind of just like, oh, I'm gonna fall. Oh, nope, I got it. I'm gonna fall. And then eventually you just fall, and then you're sliding down that hill, and
there's a downhill spiral.
Yeah, man. So basically, what happened for me is, you know, I hit all the goals in my 20s. You know, set all these goals when I graduated, like right before I had that first mental.
You had a plan.
Yeah, I had a whole plan. I checked
That's
off
good.
every single box
you had a
in
plan.
my 20s. But as soon as
better than most black men who do.
Yeah, exactly.
At least you had one.
But as soon as I checked it off, I don't know what happened. Maybe I was pushing myself too hard, but my mind just snapped. Literally, I think it must have been a week after the technology company I was at, they like went public on the New York Stock Exchange, you know, made a little bit of money. All that, I was feeling good, and then I don't know what happened, but my mind just broke, and you know, I felt like I had to travel all over. Like I flew, like I basically, you know, I don't think I've ever told this story. I basically flew from like Toronto to San Francisco, spent a few weeks in San Francisco, flew to.
And you're not sleeping.
Well, I'm sleeping here and there, but I'm still like, I'm definitely not in the right state of mind. And then I flew to like Detroit, and I was like at this like Thomas Jefferson exhibit, and I have this whole the spiritual aspect of it that we talked about before, about like, you know, connected to like America and all that type of stuff. And then I flew to Ottawa, and then when I flew to Ottawa, that's when my family called me, being like, "Yo, something's wrong. What's going on?" And then that was probably like at least 2 or 3 weeks later. So I was already burning through savings, burning all that.
Oh
stuff.
my goodness!
About like my the effects that I'm still facing. I had a nice little nest egg, and it was gone.
What were you thinking this whole time? The whole time when you're flying, doom, doom, doom. What were you thinking when you're going to San Francisco, when you're going to Detroit?
Yeah, so like I believe that I was like on a mission and to do all of these different things, and like all I can say is that like as much as there was the component of like not being there, and I understand that there's like the mental health aspect, I think it's a TED Talk or a book. It's called Psychosis or Spiritual Awakening. And so it talks about how mental health is treated like overseas, like in Israel and Africa, how like
in different countries,
like, you know, they'll say that you have a gift, but here it's like medicated. And so like there was a lot of things, even that whole like the whole exhibit that I went to.
But you still haven't been diagnosed with your issue yet.
This was the lead up to it. Yeah, this is the lead up to it.
Okay. But you were still looking into these things.
Yeah, I was still looking into these things because I was like, at this point, like,
you kind of knew something was wrong.
I knew something was wrong probably like 2018, where I remember verbalizing to my friends, being like, yo, like I feel like something's off, But then it was around like April 2019. So 2018, I'm talking like a good the last half of 2018, I feel something's off, but I wasn't diagnosed. I didn't have anything. Right?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
But by the time that things went sideways, it was too late. Like I was at that point, there was no reasoning with me. Like I had a good nest egg. I was like, all right, I can do whatever I want. Cause like
And then
I'm good.
And then what?
And then that trip that
like you went downhill, yeah.
yeah,
You know, and
then
how did you pull yourself out of it?
It was actually I would say a mix of advocating for myself and like having help from my family. Like, I had family members fly out, spend time with me, check on me, that type of stuff. So like they were the ones that initially kicked off the whole, like, okay, we need to get him to a doctor, do all this type of stuff. The challenges with that is that the first doctor's appointment I went to, they were like, all right, he's got this, he's exhibiting these symptoms. Okay, put him on this pill, this pill, this pill, this pill. And I had to advocate for myself, being like, yo, wait, like
this got you drugged up.
Yeah, like you can't.
Was it opioids?
No, they wanted to put me on like lorazepam, Seroquel. They basically wanted to put me on a cocktail, and I was like, no, like it's way too early for all of that. And I knew myself, I was very sensitive to different medications, right?
Yeah, so, and you weren't like on drugs before anyways. All you really did was dabble with some alcohol.
Yeah, exactly. So
now they want to give you drugs.
Yeah, no, they literally tried it. And so I pushed back heavily, and thankfully they listened. I rest in peace to somebody I know that was they caved into the medication, and it had such an adverse effect that they lost their life to them.
Oh my goodness, man.
Yeah, so like that.
My condolences, brother.
Yeah, no, thank you. So like knowing that was a big reason why I
you fought against it. You're like, no, I'm not going down that hill.
Something. Yeah, so I went through a few medications where, going back to the self-harm component.
Yes.
You just sorry.
It's all right, brother. Hey, take your time, man.
Yeah.
You don't have to rush through it.
Yeah.
Take your time.
Yeah. So, like, one of the medications, like, really, it was almost immediate. Where I was just
as soon as you took it, just bang.
Yeah. Within a couple hours, but like it was like I was suicidal. I was crying. I was like, basically like the quote unquote crazy person you see on the street or whatever. Like I was literally on the rooftop of my condo, ready to like end it all. And I was like, what?
And the meds drove you there.
Yeah, the med, like that was a big.
Oh my gosh!
Obviously, like the lead up to it, this is like
no, for sure. But you took the meds, and now you're on top of the roof.
Yeah,
so.
Exactly. So, yeah, that was a really difficult time. And so once I got off those meds, I was able to settle down over the.
Was there anybody that was there to save you, or did your mind pull yourself out of it?
I think honestly, I don't think anybody. I think I must have walked away from the edge, but
it's hard to even remember, eh?
Yeah, I don't think anybody at that time. I don't think anybody came, but I did definitely have a few friends, come in and check on me when I had, a couple.
Yeah, you definitely had support. It seems like you always had support.
Yeah,
but when you're going through these type of episodes, it's spontaneous, so people may not be around.
Yeah, 100%.
So it's not like nobody was there for you. It's just that at the time, there was nobody around, and it's amazing that you were even able to, get your mind together for that time there, that specific moment, and pull yourself up. Because a lot of times people don't, like what you said, your friend.
Yeah,
they get adverse effects, and So I want to stay on that.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna take a quick moment right now to shout out our sponsor.
Yeah.
We would like to take the time to shout out 21st Century Wigs. If you're looking for high quality HD laced wigs, pre-made, same day pickup, hit them up at Instagram at 21st Century Wigs, and transform your look today with one of their stunning wigs.
Nice.
Hit them up. All right, so okay. The reason why I feel like I'm excited that that's the topic that you chose to talk about today. I'm not excited about the things that you've transpired, like with, and the things that you've been through that have led up to, but I feel like a lot of us self-harm in different ways.
Yeah.
And maybe by the end of this, people will see that I'm actually self-harming myself, and maybe I should go check it out. So
yeah, I definitely tried to.
So now
to drink myself to death.
Oh my gosh,
that's definitely it. Oh, okay. Before we continue, I forgot the whole thing with the numbers. Like black males have the highest, I think, the highest rates of suicide and suicidation and suicide attempts in the last decade. That's where I was trying to go with that before we jumped
In the last decade?
Yeah, well, obviously, like that's when the research has been done. I think it was between like
That's when the research was
and,
done.
like,
Yeah,
2018. But like, obviously, we know that it's been. Way
I think
longer
I think we're the highest community too for community or PTSD.
Yep.
I don't think any community has more. I think where men are 8.35% and women are 8.40 or something like that percent.
Yeah.
Out of the whole like population, but that's just out of the ones that they tested, they checked out, right? So it's not really.
Yeah, it's
It
probably
depends on the number. It could be even bigger than that.
Yeah.
So black males have been committing suicide at a higher rate.
Yeah, there's a higher rate, like suicide attempts, and there's just an increase.
But do you think that that's because of drug addiction? Because our black male drug addiction has gone up. It went down since the 80s, and we were doing okay for a while, and then it's gone back up now.
I think it's a multitude of factors for sure. Like I think that's one aspect of it, but I also think again with
not getting diagnosed properly.
Yeah, not getting diagnosed, like the late stages, like it's not uncommon for that to be a thing where like I've had friends
and then getting medicine,
men and women where there might be of different cultural backgrounds,
Mm-hmm.
maybe they're from Africa, whatever it is, and like mental health isn't really talked about a lot in the motherland, right? So this is a very
it's not talked about in our house really at all, unless somebody has it and we know that they have it for sure. We don't really talk.
Even then, it's a very
sensitive topic.
Yeah, it's a very sensitive topic, and so like the education around it doesn't really, it doesn't really transpire. So I think that's another big factor of it, and then obviously like the systemic racism. I remember, so I don't know why I laughed at it, but I remember there was
it's the same thing. It's the same thing I was talking to Miss Debs about last time. Sometimes when we hear things as black people, we just gotta laugh.
Yeah, you just have
because
to laugh.
if we don't, it's like it's gonna drive you crazy.
Yeah, well, exactly, because like this lady, I had gotten arrested or whatever, and this is around the George Floyd times, and
so we're fast forwarding now. So in your 20s, you took this bad medicine.
Yeah.
You almost jumped.
That was 2019. Yeah, 2019.
That was 2019.
Yeah.
When you took the medicine, and you almost went off the.
That was when I was trying to get diagnosed. So that was on the lead up to me getting diagnosed. I got diagnosed July 11th. So that would have been like just around my birthday or a little bit around my birthday.
So because of that extreme situation, now you got diagnosed properly.
Yeah, it all kind of like was happening around the same time.
Okay. But like you were saying, a lot of black men in the last decade has been harming themselves, and you think that these medications could have
I think it's
something to do with it.
I think it's not getting addressed enough. Interactions with the police, authority figures, whatever that looks like. Like, the story that I was gonna tell was that like I had gotten arrested just around the Black Lives Matter movement, and this officer was like, she was just like, yeah, like it's just crazy everything that's going on, and we got to talking. Like I'm never, it depends how you treat me is how I treat you. Well, you're not gonna where things get a little bit dicey when you're in handcuffs and stuff like that. But like she was good people, so we started talking, and she was just like, everybody hates us now. That was what a police officer was saying, and I kind of I didn't quit back at her, but I was just like, now you understand like what it's like.
What it's been like every day for me for like my whole life.
Yeah, and we connected. No, real talk. We connected on that level. It like she had taken a step back. Like I like we had a bit of a connection there where she was just like, oh, you could see she kind of got it.
Yes.
Like
it resonated with her.
Yeah, it resonated. So yeah, I think all of these interactions, it's like it's a million little things that are adding up, right? So yeah, I think that's like a big component of it.
So then fast forwarding, right?
Yeah.
You get locked up?
Yeah. So
what did you get? What was your charges exactly?
Yeah, so basically I was gone. I was, drinking a lot, and again, I never like really did too much, but like this night, the night that everything happened when I got incarcerated was really bad. So basically I was, doing a little bit, just taking stuff that wasn't mine.
You're dibbling and dabbling in things you don't usually dibble and dabble in.
Yeah, at this point, and I think a core component of this, and I'm not excusing any of my actions, but where I was at mentally at that point in time is like, I was making good money, 6 figures plus whatever, and now I was on Ontario Works.
Oh,
that's what,
so you're like
end of
rock
2019,
bottom.
I'm up. I'm doing, or end of 2018 to early 2018, I'm up. This is now getting towards like the middle of like 2020, and I'm now, in a different position. And I had family support, all that type of stuff, but you have to understand that like where I was at mentally is like, I'm gonna do it on my own. I don't need any help. Like all of that. So I was at a point now where, I'm used to living a certain lifestyle, and went back to doing stuff that I, shouldn't have been doing and all of that. So basically I got,
you fell off.
Booked. Yeah, I fell off.
You got booked with the stuff that you weren't supposed to have?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
So, plus some other stuff too. And so, yeah, so that's how I ended up getting, so like my,
how much time did they give you?
So I was blessed. So, sorry, I just got to think about how I got to phrase it very carefully. So this is my first time appearing before the court.
Okay.
So I never,
first offender.
Yeah, never had any troubles or anything like that with the law.
That's good.
Yeah.
And you're like 30 now.
Before. Yeah, this is 30. So
it's a bad time to choose to get your first problem at 30, but at least you weren't in and out of the the system as a youngin.
Yeah, you just
made a bad decision later on in life.
Yeah, exactly. I like that story. So yeah, I got the charges were for robbery, and so that I didn't get any time. I think I did like when I got booked out, I think I was like in there for like a few months.
Oh, you're blessed.
Yeah, and so I came out, but the thing is, like, I had a job at the point. No, I didn't have a job at that point, but I got out. They put me on bail, and then I was going to do my trial. So my trial took probably, or like the whole process probably, if I get out, late 2020, early 2021, I don't get sentenced until July of 2022, around there. Mm-hmm. And so at that point in time, like there was the whole challenge of, picking yourself back up off your feet. Like I was very much depressed for the, those first few months.
Yeah.
Outside, but at one
like
point,
majority of everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
It's hard.
Yeah. It's hard to pick yourself back up. So, by the time that I like got to sentencing, even though, so the original charges were actually a lot more severe, but I got dropped down to just robbery. So they just gave me a conditional sentence. So I was able to serve that in the community, not without its, a couple hiccups here and there, just from just doing stupid, nothing illegal. Just
hey, you breached here and there.
Yeah.
You're just trying to live your life. You're trying to live your life.
Trying to live life. But another big thing though, like that I want to talk about is like when I got to, when all this happened, I got to Maplehurst, and there was going back to that spiritual thing, like there was a dude lived in the same city as me. His girl was was living in another city that was the same city. We got booked in another city that was separate from those other two cities. Snap. And we started talking about our mindsets of like what led us to being in that cell together, or in that holding cell together. And I was like, damn, this guy's
small world though, eh?
I don't think nothing happens.
Oh, you think everything happens for a reason? Okay.
I don't believe in none of that. I think that like for me, it showed me like the mind state that I had. It was like we both had that same mindset. We're like, we're gonna live our lives, like, and bun all of that. Like we're out right now,
and that all led to this one point.
Exactly, that all led to that one point. So that mind state of like even doing that. So I think mindset is a real big thing. Even from regardless of whatever mental health state I was in, it was like go for the quick route. I'm used to having money in my bank account right now.
Yeah. You're not used to not having it. Yeah. So I guess that's why you were jumping like that.
Yeah. So like I think that was the first big thing that like landed me in there on top of the mental health. But then the reason why I ended up back in for breaches was because of that mind state of not realizing, you just got to be
Take your time.
militant, keep the straight and narrow path if you can.
Yeah, you'll get there.
Yeah, and you'll get there. So
Yeah.
I think that like those are the two big.
All right, so let me ask you this. How was your experience with incarceration influenced your perspective on mental health now? Like after being in there and being with this guy, did you think maybe he has a mental health issue as well, or?
Yeah, so I've had a lot of cellies. And I'll say the first time I went in, I was still manic.
You were still manic?
I was still manic when I was incarcerated for the good portion of the time. They got me on meds and I was able to stabilize the first time. And that's when I got out in 2020, December 2020 or like January 2020.
So they locked you up while you were manic?
Yeah, but...
Is that what they're supposed to do? Don't you go to CAMH?
Yeah, you go to CAMH, but I also committed a crime. I've done, the inpatient road at CAMH where, you stay.
Because they have inpatient, they have outpatient.
Yeah. All of that. So I've been through that whole process, and that was, and I guess we didn't really talk about it, but that happened multiple times leading up to this event, but it still wasn't really enough to help me. But so I was manic the first time. So like it was my first time being locked up was a very different experience from the second time when I was just stable. Right. So,
of course, you're manic. You never should have been in there. Anything could have happened.
I shouldn't have been in there. But again, I think the criminality of it, or the charges that I had, landed me in there. And I've ran into, kids that are autistic.
In there?
Yeah, in there, man.
Wow.
18-year-old kids. And you're like, bro, you should be in like a
Are you serious?
Or something. Yeah. So like there's no...
Even group homes, it's a little bad on the mental.
It's better than
in there though.
Like there should be something in between.
I completely agree with you, brother. I completely agree with you, brother. There should be something in place to balance this out, because autistic in jail?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
And I've ran into a few people like that, but very varying personalities. Some shouldn't have been there, some were, fine. So yeah, the first time I was locked up, like, got into a couple bang outs for mouthing off, had a little bit of dental work done, all of that type of stuff.
Oh, you really got into bang outs.
Yeah, but
oh my goodness, bro.
Yeah, so like,
do you think if you weren't in the state that you were in, it never would have happened?
I definitely would have moved a lot proper, because like when I went back in, like,
didn't have those problems.
Yeah, I didn't have those problems. Like,
you weren't manic.
I wasn't manic, and it wasn't my first time too, right? So like, I think that was another big thing as well.
It was a shock. The first time was kind of like a shock. You were adjusting.
Real talk. I think
adapting.
I don't think to this day, man, I don't even think I've really processed the first time I went in.
Because you were manic.
It was not even just manic, just like disassociating from all of it. Because like, it still feels like a dream that happened, because I think I only started to like really stabilize like maybe like a week before I got out.
Oh
and
gosh.
I was in there for I think like 2-3 months.
Yeah, that's horrible, man. You never should have been in there. That's horrible. That's horrible.
So like that first time was I would say pretty traumatizing, but it was also like I was also blessed in certain ways. Like obviously there was the one altercation that happened, but like the range that I was on, there's people you could literally Google right now that are, they've had their cases, yada, yada, yada. And like a lot of them helped me out and looked out for me.
That's great.
Until like all of that. So the next time I was in, I was in a much better mind state. I'd held a job, all of that. Like I was like, okay, I got the funds to like get out, like figure all of it out. So I think that was a much difference where I like, knew who I was, didn't, ruffle the feathers, people in there with very, very serious charges, and was still able to, move properly. So like the next time I was in jail, that wasn't as traumatizing, or anywhere. I don't even view it as traumatizing as the first time when I was like really going through.
No, for sure. It makes sense. You weren't in a certain mental state, and you kind of been through it, so now you understand it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this, right? What are some of the misconceptions people might have about mental health in the criminal justice system? Like when you were in there, like, did you know that so much people would have had that issue, or so much people would have mental health problems when you first went in? Well, the first time doesn't really matter. Let's talk about the second time, because you weren't really in the right state of mind the first time.
Yeah, I would say actually both times I remember hearing some like there's people with mental health are overrepresented, regardless of whatever their diagnosis is within the justice system. Yeah, like and obviously there's the layers on top of that. Like I remember reading some stat, like I think it's 25% of all inmates in Canada are Indigenous, and then I think the next level is based on whatever per capita or whatever is. I think it's Black.
Indigenous, is that because they suffer from a lot of alcohol poisoning?
I don't think it's that. I think it's also just systemic, man. I think there's
but a lot of their children are born with that that alcohol. I forget what it is called. It's I think it's FA.
Fetal alcohol syndrome.
Fetal alcohol syndrome. A lot of them are born with that.
Yeah, I would say that it's also just the centuries of just injustice, right? Like it's the same way that
it's the same as I mean they definitely suffer from cultural trauma, cultural PTSD,
systemic discrimination. It's
but
like
also they suffer from cultural substance abuse.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah,
right.
I
think that as Canadians, we got to start recognizing these things, and it shouldn't be okay for a pregnant woman to go inside the LCBO and buy alcohol. Yeah, because you don't know what she's gonna like. You may think she's gonna buy for somebody else. That may be the general understanding, right? But then when she goes home and she's drinking this alcohol, and now the child is suffering from.
Yeah, I think that's a portion of it, but I also think that there's a lot to do with just how they're viewed and treated, and like how they're over incarcerated. It's the same way in the U.S., right?
I completely agree with you.
of all inmates in the United States.
No, for sure, I completely agree with you. They don't.
Stats. Yeah,
they get it just as bad as us.
Yeah.
In some cases, I feel like they're like our aunties or uncles or ancestors or something, because in a sense, they're like the only people I see that get treated either worse than us or just as bad as us,
Especially with everything. So I think there's a lot of factors for it, for sure.
Okay, so all right, I'm going to ask you. I'm going to go back to self-harm for a bit.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah, that's cool.
Because in the Black community, right, is a thing now where people are doing a lot of the BBLs. They want to enlarge their chest, their buttocks, and all these things. But it's a painful process, right? And after it's done, they have to suffer this type of pain for weeks at a time, right? In a sense, is that self-harm?
I think that, whatever you want to call it, body augmentation to,
because, all right, let me ask you something else to try and correlate with that question. If you don't feel comfortable about yourself in a way, right? And you're willing to go under the knife to change it, isn't that there has to be some mental condition correlated with that, no? Or is that just something that you could want to do just?
No, I think especially like, and you know how it is, and like there's, what do you call it, the pink tax, and like all like the way like the whole presentation of women in the media that they have to,
But that plays with the psychology, though. That plays with their mental.
Yeah, but I don't think it's self-harm necessarily that they're doing it. I think there's a symptom. It could be a symptom of like, and some people just do it because they want to, right? Like there's some.
No, that's what I'm saying. All right. Some people definitely do it because they want to, but self-harm is a behavior. It's not a condition.
Yeah, it's a behavior. Yeah, it's fair.
Right.
But
so
I think just because of the beauty standards that are in the media, I think that plays a big role into like why all of this is going on. Even like the whole like BBL thing, like I view that as like, going back to like the 1800s where you saw the pictures of the women with that big breast at the back, right? It's the same. It's just the same thing, right? And there's a whole notion around. Actually, we're not even going to get into that.
All right, let's not get into that. All right, I have one more question for you, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Is that cool?
All right, yeah, cool.
All right, could you give us your best signature for the handcuff status?
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Perfect. Okay, so we're gonna wrap it up. I want to thank Radz for coming out on helping tell his story and sharing some insight on mental health. For everybody incarcerated, remember, freedom is a must. Free all the lifers. Shout out Private Spaceship. If you guys have any questions, comments, Please hit us up at Handcuff Status Inc. We're on all platforms. Don't forget to like and comment. It really helps, guys. And never forget our real mission. We're trying to break the chains of injustice. Thank you.